Okay, yes, I know. I am horrible at my weekend predictions. But to be fair, I don't think a lot of people knew Longlegs was going to be as big as it ended up being. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Talk, and welcome to the box office update, where Despicable Me 4 continues to be on the rise. Longlegs does absurdly well. Fly Me to the Moon, not so well. There's a lot of stuff to cover, so I won't waste too much time in the intro and start with this. So I'll keep the top 10 up next to me while talking about everything so you can have something to look at. But I'll just start with this. Despicable Me 4, that is exactly what every studio exec wants to see. So obviously, $44 million second weekend, 41% drop. I just want to say, like, if your drop is in the 40s, like, that's exactly where every movie wants to be. But 41%, that's absurdly good. Like, that, I can't express enough just how great of a number that is. That's exactly what this needs. It's a great thing for the movie, for studios, for Hollywood in general. And it's really just kind of showing like how big the summer box office is looking like it's going to be, because there's also another big movie in second place that is also showing that movies are so back, and I love it. Longlegs comes in second place with between 20 to 23 million. So it's not for sure exactly how much it makes, because in case you didn't know, this is the Sunday estimates, and basically it's just like Hollywood has gone to the point where like they can so accurately estimate what the box office is going to end up looking like that it's you can just look at it this early, because at the time of recording it's only 11 o'clock in the morning, so it's still like really early, but like the estimates are like eerily dead on with how good they are. But back to the movie, Longlegs is having a great first weekend, and I will take the blame. I was very stupid for saying 5 to 12 million. That was I I don't know. I'm horrible at my predictions. I'm going to continue to be horrible at my predictions. Don't expect my next predictions for Twisters, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. Don't expect that to be any good either. I'm probably going to be way off on what I think it's going to be. But this is honestly just a win for original horror movies. I think like if we can keep on getting numbers like these, then low budget horror movies might start making like way more of a comeback and like be way more popular than they have been for the past few years, because this has the chance of making $100 million worldwide, and I honestly would not be surprised at all. Actually, I'd be more surprised if it doesn't, especially because I want to see what the word of mouth looks like. I want to see the second weekend before I can confidently say if it's going to make 100 million or not. But just 20 million alone, that is a major win for Neon, because this is the biggest opening for any movie they've ever had, and I'm really happy about this. I saw the movie, I loved it. I think that is exactly what we needed. We need a horror movie like this, like good, like kind of like the next generation Silence of the Lambs, pretty much. And that's the way I see it, at least. It was such a perfect movie. I'm so happy that Nicolas Cage continues to find just these amazing horror roles, and I want to see him more in these. Number three comes Inside Out 2, which is another stronghold. So 20 million weekend, 34% drop for week three, which is actually very good. And so it's just another case of it's just a good, popular movie. I mean, it's the highest grossing Pixar movie of all time. I mean, I'm really happy for this movie. This is only week three. It still has a long ways to go before it ends its box office run. So I'm really happy about Disney's finally been able to get the comeback that they needed. Hopefully they can build off this momentum, start making good movies again. Hopefully, especially with Marvel. I mean, I'd be shocked if Deadpool 3 doesn't get Deadpool and Wolverine, sorry, it doesn't get $1 billion. And I'm really excited about it, but I mean, there's not really a whole lot new to talk about outside of that. Quiet Place Day One comes to number four with $11.5 million. I almost forgot for a second. So yeah, another good 44% drop. I mean, it's proven to be that The Quiet Place is a very good franchise. Nothing new to add, but I do think it's going to get up to around that $300 million threshold that all the other Quiet Place movies have been able to do. And I mean, to be fair, it's only week three, so it could end up passing the first Quiet Place to be the highest grossing movie of the franchise, which would be really nice. But yeah, it's another good, solid entry in the top 10. Fly Me to the Moon comes in at number 5, and I am worried about this movie because it made $10 million. Not a good number for when your budget of the movie is $100 million. I mean, you made 1/10 of the budget in the opening weekend, and that opening weekend's the biggest weekend that you're gonna have for this movie. Unless like some weird effect happens and people start going to this movie way more people go to this movie on like the second and third weekend, which is very unlikely. I would be shocked if it got a plus percentage in the second weekend. But I mean, it it is what it is. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I didn't think it was great. And I think that's the biggest thing that was holding it back was that like it was just a fine rom com, and you don't make rom coms $100 million. I get that this was a lot bigger of a scale of a movie compared to your average rom com, but it's still it just didn't do enough for audience to get interested. I mean, Thursday night opening day, the Thursday night previews had less than $1 million. I mean, when I went to see the movie, there's one other person in the theater with me, and the funny thing was like it was like a decent sized auditorium too, and like it was just me and some other lady that was in there, and so we were the only people that saw that movie. Granted, I mean, it was 3 o'clock on a Thursday, so probably not going to be a lot of people in general, but still, like it's not a good number at all, and it's going to most likely just be like mainly focused on Apple TV, which is where I figured it was the main target was just to get it on Apple TV. Number 6 is Bad Boys Ride or Die. Nothing interesting with this. I mean, 4.4 million, 33% drop. Nothing interesting. I don't know if it's going to get to $200 million domestically, but still, great movie. Had a great opening weekend, great holds. It was just a good thing to happen all around. Another proof that, I mean, I say this every single time, Will Smith's career obviously is still here and around. It's still alive, and there's nothing new to talk about. Another Indian movie makes it into the top 10 with Indian 2, which again, like, I'd never heard of any of these movies, so like this is always the first time I hear about a lot of these Indian movies. But it made 2.4, sorry, $1 million domestically, and I fully expect it to be out of the top 10, or at the very least, like maybe 9 or 10, just because a lot of Indian movies have like 70 to 60% drops, and so it's not going to be likely that it has a good hold because these movies they come and go every weekend. It's not really Indian movies aren't really big in America in the second, third, fourth weekend. It's just the first weekend where it makes all its money. I expect it to maybe make around $1 million, less probably even there, like 600,000 to $1 million second weekend, which I mean is a very low number, and so it's not surprised that it's going to have a big drop, but I don't know. I'm happy that these movies still end up making the top 10. I mean, I remember the box office years ago, like 2019, when you never saw Bollywood movies or any Indian movies like that make it to the top 10, and it was just American Hollywood movies. And so here recently, especially since post 2020, the Indian movie market in America has been getting a lot bigger and growing, and I'm happy about that. I mean, that's really what I love to see with Hollywood and the box office is just seeing more foreign movies getting into American hands. And I want to see more of these continue. I'm really happy that every weekend there's at least one Indian movie that makes it into the top 10. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see what the box office looks like next weekend and what other Indian movie is going to make it in because I have no idea what's going to be releasing next. I don't really follow India and Bollywood and all that stuff, but I'm happy for the movie. MaXXXine comes to number 8 with $2.2 million, so a 66% drop. I talked about earlier in the beginning of the video. Every studio wants a 40% drop in their second weekend. Well, the biggest nightmare is a 60% drop. And when it's above 65 and into 66% drop, like that is, whew, that's bad. And I mean, obviously, the mediocrity of the movie has to be blamed for it. I mean, it was also just not a big opening weekend to begin with. And so when you package that along with it's just not a good movie, then you get a bad second weekend. And especially for horror movies, if it's a bad horror movie, the second weekend will be atrocious. And this is certainly atrocious. I mean, I maybe it'll still stay in the top 10. I mean, again, if it does stay in the top 10, it's going to be like I would be shocked if it makes it anything past number 10. And this is just a movie that's just going to come and go. I'm so sad because X was such a good movie, and a lot of people liked Pearl. I hated the movie, but a lot of people liked Pearl. And then they just end it with MaXXXine. It was such an unfortunate way to just end this trilogy because could have been something truly great. But I mean, it is what it is. It sucks, but there's nothing we can do about it. Horizon, everyone. Who remembers Horizon? I certainly remember. I was one of the 7 people who went to see that movie opening weekend. But no, in all seriousness, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible box office run it's having. Number 9, $2 million, 62% drop. I mean, it's made $26 million domestically. It's a terrible number for a movie with this high of a budget. I mean, it's going to have a long life on streaming, and I mean they pulled the chapter 2 release date, so who knows when that's going to be coming out. So at this point, chapter 2, it's not about making money. It's about losing the least amount of money. Because we already know, it's very obvious now that this movie is not going to be making any money. It's not going to make a single drop a penny for a profit. It's all about damage control and trying its hardest to not lose a whole lot of money. Because it's going to be losing a lot of money, but how much of a lot is what they're trying to stop. They're trying to get it to be a very minimum and just trying to control the box office any way they can to where they can get the least amount of profit. Least amount of profit. Least amount of loss of a profit. I don't know. It's Horizon, everyone. There's nothing interesting to say. However, number 10 comes Lion King. The original Lion King made $1.4 million this weekend. It only debuted in around like 2,500 theaters, so it wasn't like a giant release. But I have a funny story about this one. So I had my grandma doesn't like horror movies, so she doesn't like me seeing them. And so I told her that when I went to see Longlegs, I was actually going to go see Lion King instead because that just happened to been playing at my local theater, and so I was able to lie about that. I feel bad, but I mean, to be fair, if she found out I went to see Longlegs, and if you've seen the movie, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. She wouldn't really like that a whole lot. But regardless of that, I'm happy that this movie came out. I do wish I could have seen it in theaters because it would be such a dream to be able to watch Lion King in the theaters. I've always wanted to see it in theaters. It'd be so cool to one day maybe eventually see it in theaters because it's a movie that definitely like needs to be in the theaters to properly be seen. And it's a great, I mean, for a re-release of a movie with like such, especially like a decently competitive top 10, it's really fascinating, really fun that they managed to get it into the top 10. I'm happy about it at least. And I mean, who knows? Maybe more of these types of movies can be released. More of these like anniversary classic movies can start making it to the top 10 more and more. Especially because it seems to be like more and more common that some of these re-releases. I remember a while ago, a couple of weeks, I think, the Lord of the Ring movies, they were all released, and the first 2 were released. Return of the King wasn't in the top 10 just because it debuted on that Sunday, because they were doing like Friday was the first one, Saturday the second one, and the third one was on Sunday. So that didn't make it into the top 10, but still, like, these re-releases of classic movies are still like very much showing that like they can turn a pretty decent profit. Now that's the top 10, but what's coming out next weekend? So there's really only one big movie that's really worth talking about, and that's Twisters. So right now they're projecting about a $65 to $85 million opening weekend. And I would agree with that, although I think it has a bit of a higher ceiling. So if I had to say, I really don't see it dropping below 70 million. So I think I'd put 70 million as the lowest it'll get, and I think it could get as high as 80 million. It's pretty similar with what the official projection is, but that's my personal thing. And I mean, I kind of need a win after what happened with Longlegs. Ooh, I was really off by that one. But yeah, I mean, the projections about what I expected. It's a pretty good opening weekend too. I mean, that's exactly what the movie needs. I mean, it's a pretty big movie. Like it's a almost like an event style film of like seeing like these giant tornadoes and these storm chases and Glenn Powell plus he's becoming like a legitimate movie star and like it happened like I swear it happened overnight. Like before, like I remember I didn't even know who he was when he was in Top Gun Maverick. I didn't even remember he was in Top Gun Maverick. And then like I find out like especially like Hitman comes out and that like really exploded. And I personally like he was amazing in that movie. And so he's if this movie ends up becoming like really giant, he's gonna 100% gonna be a certified movie star. And I'd be curious to see what movies he ends up doing next after he gets a stardom. And so, yeah, that's pretty much this week's box office. I mean, do you agree with me? Disagree with me? I mean, what do you think of the box office? Have you seen all these movies that have been out? Which one's been your favorite so far? I mean, tell me everything they think. I mean, tell me what you think the Twisters box office is going to look like. And I mean, if you want, like and subscribe to the channel. Share the video if you want to so people can stay updated with the box office. I do a bunch of videos. I do these box office updates every Sunday. I also do reviews and sometimes I do essays, little like like rants about stuff. And I mean, yeah, that's really all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you've made it this far, which I don't know how many people actually have made it this far, but if you have, I really do thank you. And because it means a lot that people are actually watching these videos. It means so much to me. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. That's movie talk. See ya.